I ran out of time to finalize this video today, and I thought I'd probably get away with releasing it tomorrow, but no, Nintendo has revealed Fire Emblem's Fortune's Weave is having a direct on the 4th of August, which is pretty exciting, although slightly irritating for my August video. But there you go. For the rest of the video, please just put in mind where you were a few hours before this delightful news was unveiled. What does Nintendo have up its sleeve for the month of August? In this video, we're going to discuss the theory that Zelda is releasing in November and therefore what implications this might have for whether or not they will do a big Zelda blowout this month. We'll talk about other presentations that might be in the offing, such as Fire Emblem and Pokemon, and we'll talk about any potential surprise games that might drop during the month of August. As always, I will offer context and analysis and put my expectations in the form of percentage forecasts at the end of the video. So, to start off with, let's look and see what Nintendo summers are usually like. They tend to have a major July game, but then to level off during the month of August. So what you'll tend to see if you look back through the Nintendo catalog during the Switch era is that the late July game tends to be particularly significant. 2018 is a bit of an exception, as is 2024, but generally speaking, you're looking at a major game to end July, and that's because it's the period before Japan goes largely on holiday. They have their Oban period, and many people take the time off. According to Kit and Krista, many people at Nintendo themselves in Japan also take a significant amount of time off, and so it's a good time to end with quite a major game before a period of time where they're not going to release major titles. In 2017, we saw Splatoon 2, and we've also seen games like Fire Emblem and Xenoblade Chronicles and Zelda Skyward Sword, quite big, meaty games. Pikmin has also historically released in the July window, and Donkey Kong Bonanza was perhaps their most major title outside of the launch during the bulk of 2025, so it made sense to put it as the mid to late July game. Now, in terms of their summers, apart from that, we tend to have quite quiet periods during August. They have released smaller digital games such as Dragon Drive and Kirby's Dream Buffet during the middle of August, and they have also done some kind of promotions such as indie and third party and pre-scheduled announcements, but generally speaking it's quite quiet. Last year we got Kirby Air Riders being focused on, but my guess is that a lot of the directs and materials that Nintendo put out during this window are probably pre-scheduled rather than being intensively worked on right up to the drop. The reason being simply that if many of the people in the company are off, it makes sense that clearances and such like would be delayed, and so they might decide to go with things that have been in the oven for a while and are well prepared. So, if we're thinking about an August game, I think probably we're not going to see anything until Fortunes We've released. It is a little bit too late to announce a full retail title for the end of August, even though I did at one point think one was quite probable. A digital shadow drop is completely possible still, of course, and we might well see something for mobile as well, which could slip in, so I don't discount the possibility entirely. An 8-week gap between releases, which is what the gap from Raiders to Fortunes Weave would be, is not unprecedented. So 2018, 2021, 2023 have seen similar gaps. But all the same, it's quite like Nintendo at the moment to try to keep up the pace of games. They've had a lot of games this year, and it would be a little bit surprising if they had such a big gap. But then again, with Splatoon Raiders, there are plenty of reasons not to drop anything straight away. And also, as we'll get to, I think the price change in the West is going to be a significant driver of their tactics this autumn. And actually, it makes a lot of sense not to drive sales towards the Switch 2 before the price rise when there's going to be a spike anyway. So for this reason, I think it's probably now the case that we won't see an August game. But I still think there are exciting things to come in August. For one thing, the 6th of August will do double duty because it is both Metroid's 40th anniversary and the Q1 financials for Nintendo. And while they might not want to link them, I don't completely rule out there being something Metroid-ish, at least in this month, to take advantage of the lull before the Zelda festivities begin, and after the Mario 40th has largely now wrapped up. In terms of other presentations, there are many things we could see. A Fire Emblem Direct is surely pretty much locked in at this point. An Indie World is also very likely. Partner showcases, perhaps something specific for the Duskbloods, could happen and might be quite appropriate during the spooky season of Oban in Japan. And of course, there's the Pokemon potential showcase. It has been the case in the past that they do both a February and an August presentation. And while this isn't always the case, I think there's plenty that Nintendo would like to showcase about Winds and Waves, and this will be an opportune time to do it. Plus, of course, there is the potential of a Zelda showcase, but I do think that this is the least likely option of all of these things that we're discussing. So let's look specifically at Zelda. One, there's no imminent need. Why spike the sales before the price hike? Same logic as with just releasing any kind of August game, in fact. But also, they don't really need a lot of additional hype at present. People are excited for the game, and that's enough for the time being. Nintendo have waited quite a long time before revealing things in the past, and I don't think they need to drastically rush out new information now because basically the current level of hype is just ticking along quite nicely. They also need to think about the length of the Zelda 40th window. As I've said before, with the film not releasing until the summer of 2027, that's quite a long period to sustain a single focus on a game and property. And while Zelda is a pretty big property for them, even so, I would suspect that they would like to launch a little bit later and have a slightly more contained run of things focusing on Zelda. I think they will have a lot of Zelda stuff, but in the meantime, I think there's plenty else that they can focus on, not least Fire Emblem and Switch Sports Resort. It would also require a lot of focus while many staff are on holiday to do a big Zelda Direct, and that's another reason why I think, generally speaking, Nintendo don't do a big blowout in August, although of course that's completely something that could change if they required it. However, if they were to do something in August, this would give plenty of time for an early October game reveal, if that was something Nintendo wanted to do, and if they wanted to perhaps launch a model of the Switch 2 that coincided with the price hike, well, in that case, they probably would need to reveal this in August, and so those are the reasons why we might see a Zelda Direct. However, I think the most logical strategy here would be to sell Switch 2 through August, pre-price hike surge, then use this momentum to highlight specific titles such as Splatoon Raiders and push these, but not to significantly push other titles, and then in September do a major blowout event, including Zelda, perhaps even as soon as the 1st or 3rd of September, if they want to push things really early and avoid a sort of drop-off in Switch stock. Having said that, I suspect that with Switch 2 purchases that are made towards the end of August, probably picking up, they've got a couple of weeks to even out their stock flow before they push things again, and so I don't think there'll be any particular rush to do a big direct. I think the 2nd or 3rd week in September, where they normally do it, would be absolutely fine, but I suppose if they did want to avoid any kind of gap, then going early would make a lot of sense. I think we will see a September direct with a Zelda focus. I think they will probably at that point reveal the early October game because I think there will be one, and I think it is very likely to be Mario, but I've had previous forecasts on that, so I won't add to that at the current point. The holiday lineup then, I guess, is going to be 8th of October, maybe 1st of October Mario, 22nd of October Switch Sports Resort, 12th of November would be Zelda. That would logically fit in with the announced Amiibo, although, of course, it's completely possible it could be earlier, and the 8th of October would be a sensible place if they wanted to avoid GTA. And then on the 3rd of December, I do think we will see something else beside just Xenoblade 3 Nintendo Switch 2 edition releasing, although what that is will obviously be something for the September Direct. In terms of forecasts, then, I think there's a lot of 90% here where we can say this is pretty much certain. I really don't see a world where they don't do something like a big Fire Emblem Direct during August. I guess it could not be a Direct, but really it's such a big property, and that's the way they've always handled Fire Emblem in the past. I think a Zelda feature in a presentation by the 15th of October is locked on, and the only reason I would push it any later is if they want to perhaps do a big anniversary push and they want to separate that out from a major September Direct. I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll do what they did last year and bundle them together, but it is possible that they might consider these as separate entities, and in this case, I would say probably the next big opportunity will be that October window where in, for example, 2024, we saw quite a lot of reveals, such as Alamo and Xenoblade Chronicles X. A September Direct of some kind, though, I think is locked in, almost certainly a general, although I guess it could be something different as well. And I think we'll see 3 presentations between now and the end of September in some form, so likely an Indie World or Partner Showcase or something else in there as well. Pokemon Presents, I think, is just 70% for August. Indie World, again, 70%. I think these generally do happen, so I'm kind of going with the average number of times over the last few years that these have emerged. Partner Showcase, perhaps I'm pushing it for 70%, but I think there's plenty to showcase, and I'm putting Something Duskbloods in August. Realistically, probably the Partner Showcase and Something Duskbloods would be the same thing, but we will have to see. I think 30% a game releases in August at this point, and just 10% we get a Zelda focus presentation this August. At any rate, that's it for this video. Please do consider checking out the Patreon for early, ad-free and exclusive content, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time for another Nintendo Forecast.